Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1063B, and today's date is August 31st, 2016, and the title of the episode is Washington Propaganda Warns of Putin October Surprise. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, out in Brazil, we've been tracking what has been happening there. We realize that this is really a coup. And we discussed Brazil quite a bit and what the U.S. has been doing in Brazil. We know that the U.S. would like to have regime change in Brazil. They have people in place. We see it's happening in Venezuela. They would like to have it in Russia and China. But we see Dilma Rousseff. Well, she has become the second president to be impeached in Brazil in the 31-year-old democracy. And it looks like she lost in a vote of 61-20. And the U.S., they are doing this because they need control of these countries. They need control of the country to put the dollar on their natural resources, which is oil. They need control of the central banks in this area. They're trying to rip these countries away from the BRICS system. And they're going to continually do this until the very, very end. We see Turkey and Russia. They have agreed on the Turkish stream, and they're going to be building this pipeline. Accords were reached at the meeting to complete the issue of all required permits for the initiation of the Turkish stream, and they're going to be implementing this very soon. So we can see Turkey is using Russia for their economy. They're still going after Assad and using the U.S. to create chaos in the region. Russia is using Turkey to get the Turkish Stream pipeline built. Because remember, this pipeline will feed natural gas into Europe. Now, there's a battle going on right now between Russia and the Coalition Force pipeline. There's two pipelines here. And we can see right now that the U.S. wants their pipeline and Russia wants their pipeline. And this is the major battle, because Qatar wants to build a pipeline through Syria up into Europe. That's the battle right now in Syria. That's how it started, because Assad said, you know something? I don't want this pipeline. I'm not going to go with what you want. And that's how this war started. Now, Lavrov is out there, and he is expressing concerns about what Turkey is doing in Syria. And they're saying that they're taking it a little too far right now. And again, Syria is looking at the situation and saying, well, they don't have permission to be in this country. They violated our sovereignty. So we're going to have to watch that situation very closely. The United States came out and they said that they've discussed a ceasefire with Turkey. But Turkey right now is saying, well, we don't really agree with the ceasefire with the Kurds in Syria. We don't accept the U.S. announcement of this loose truce. So again, Turkey is in there creating chaos. The United States is using the Kurds. They're clearing the way for a buffer zone. They're clearing a way for a corridor. And we're going to have to watch this situation very closely, because we understand out in this entire area, the United States has already put up a travel alert to Turkey, telling individuals to get out of the country once again. So it looks like they're about to do something once again in Turkey. Now, will this be another attempt to remove Erdogan? Will this be another attempt for something completely different? We don't know, but we can tell something is about to happen once again. Now, the United States government central bankers, they came out with this UN report, which was issued by the UN, but they had their hands and they meddled in this report. Now, Russia said that we needed to look at this report so we can see what it really says. Now, they haven't released it to the public yet. It has only gone to Russia, the United States, and others. And when Syria and Russia read the report, they rejected the findings by the UN-led investigation that claims that Syria used chlorine gas in the two attacks in 2014 and 2015. What they're saying is that the conclusion lack any physical evidence. Now, the United States government central bankers, they are famous in doing this type of thing, where they will show pictures of what happened, but they'll never have a link to who caused it. And it looks like this is exactly what they did once again. Now, they had individuals testify what happened. The report was totally based on witness presented by terrorist armed groups. You know, the terrorist groups that the United States government central bankers control. And the Russian ambassador, Vitaly Churkin, said the following, that we have a very serious question to ask. Over the investigation findings, the panel should investigate further, because what we're seeing right now is that there are a lot of questions about this report. There are no fingerprints of who really did this, and the report doesn't name anybody. There are no specifics. There's no names. There is absolutely nothing. There is nobody to sanction in the report. But the UK and France came out and said, we're going to place sanctions on Syria. This whole thing is a smoking gun. It is a fake, phony, false UN report. The US is using it as propaganda to put pressure again on Syria. So when they go to the next Geneva talks, they can say Assad used chemical weapons. They've done this before. This is nothing new. Actually, they're doing the same exact playbook once again. And of course, when the U.S. is asked by Russia, please show us where the link is, that's where the whole thing falls apart. They can't provide the link that Assad did this. All they can show is the aftermath. And the aftermath doesn't prove who did it. It just shows you what happened when the chlorine gas was used. So we can see right now the U.S. is trying to discredit Damascus before the Geneva talks, and they're trying to use this chemical UN report to use this as leverage when they go into the talks. Now, we've been talking about the main event, and for those people who don't know what the main event is, it is the ultimate false flag. When all else fails and the economy starts to collapse and the system starts to come down, the central bankers, they will need to blame this on another group or country. And we see that the Islamic State is being beaten, and right now it most likely might not be the Islamic State. So we can see they might choose a country at this point in time. And we're starting to see this propaganda out there in the corporate media. Now, they're saying that the Swiss system, well, it was hacked into. And, of course, everyone is warning the banks and everyone else, we need to beef up security in face of the ongoing attacks. Now, it didn't name what banks were affected, but they did list what happened. Attackers used malware to circumvent the bank's local security systems. They gained access to the Swift messaging network, and the fraudulent messages were sent via Swift to initiate cash transfers from accounts at larger banks. Now, the question is, why are they doing this at this point? They want you to understand that all these systems can be hacked. Remember, when the country is cyber attacked, it is an act of war now. NATO has declared a cyber attack an act of war, so has the United States. And they're using this propaganda right now to convince you that the financial system can be hacked and the system can come down. Now, from all of this, they are saying that most likely this is all linked to North Korea. So they're already planting seeds in people's minds of who is about to do this. Now, we know they've been provoking North Korea. They know eventually we'll be in war with North Korea because this is part of their plan. They know eventually we'll be in war with Russia. That's why Russia has been implicated in malware and cyber attacks against the power infrastructure. We know that we'll be in war with China. And what they're doing at this point is they're building up the propaganda. So you understand who the players are. Now, we know who the players are because we've been talking about it for a very long time. But they want the American public to understand who the players are. Now, it doesn't mean that they have to read every little thing. They just need to hear the words North Korea, Russia, China. As long as they hear those countries, the seed has been planted. And we can see they planted this seed for what is about to happen. And what they're going to do is bring the financial system down. They will shut things down because they'll say there's malware. They'll keep things off for quite a while. They'll call it a bank holiday. Most likely they'll do it on a Friday. We'll go through the weekend. They'll say everything will be up and running on Monday. And things will never return to normal. This is what happened in Cyprus. And all they're doing now is they're creating the stories. They're laying the groundwork for what is about to happen. And that is the main event. Now, we understand the neocons, the elite, the central bankers. They don't want to give up this system. They want this system to continue on. And eventually they understand they need to restart this system. They need a transition. They know the system can't continue forever. This is why they made plans way back to go into the Middle East, go into Syria, then Iran, place all the natural resources on the petrodollar, keep it that way long enough for them to make the transition. But what we see happening right now is time is running out. We have this perfect storm coming this fall. Think about what's happening right now. Out in the Middle East, where this system is propped up on the petrodollar, the United States government central bankers, they are losing country after country after country. The people are rising up. I mean, think about where the U.S. is right now. The U.S. is in Ukraine. The U.S. is in the Pacific. The U.S. is in Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, Libya, Yemen, and many other African countries. All trying to keep the system together long enough for them to bring it down. Now, why do they want to bring it down? Well, they understand that the system can't continue on. They realize eventually it will come down by itself. I know people can't believe this. They think it's just going to go on forever with debt continually rising and these countries trying to take back their countries and kick out the central bankers and kick out the United States and stop using the petrodollar. Well, if that happens, the whole system falls apart. And we see this happening right now. The United States is losing country after country after country. They realize that what they're up against right now is time. And they realize that they're losing control of the Middle East. This is why the United States has gone back into Libya, into Yemen. They're trying to maintain control long enough as we approach this fall. Now, do we think that something major is going to happen this fall? Maybe. A lot of indicators are pointing to it. We have the economy deteriorating. We have the United States government losing control in the Middle East. And they're provoking war all over the globe. We see in Ukraine, they're getting prepared for an offensive. There's shelling going on. They've already tried in Crimea. And we can see that they have the green light. Now, we understand the elections are coming up. And they want to stay in control. They don't want someone out of left field coming in, messing everything up. Yeah, can they get rid of them? Yes, there can be an assassination. But they would like to have the candidate that they know will do what they want. Bring us to war. I mean, we're going to war no matter what. But they want it on their terms. So the Washington Post came out with an article saying that Putin plans an October surprise. Now, of course, there is no evidence whatsoever about Putin being involved in this at all. The whole thing's fabricated. Why would Russia get involved? They wouldn't. And we can see already they're using the excuse that the voter registration system was hacked, of course, by Russia. Now, of course, there's no evidence. I know they're producing IP addresses. Anybody can pick an IP address out of the blue and say, yes, this is the one we got from Russia. It's very easy to do. But again, the United States always fails in their investigation when they try to link everything. Where did it come from? What place did it go? And to get the information so quickly, it's quite impossible. They know this. Every time they come out and they say, we were just cyber attacked, and they come out with who did it, it's fake. Because if that is the case, think about this for a second. Every single company that was hacked into, they would know in a split second who it was. Most of the time, they can't even find the hackers. They can't find the criminals who did it. Sometimes, through investigation over years, they might eventually narrow it down. But to have that answer so quickly, completely impossible. So what could be this October surprise? Well, it's very close to the elections because we know the elections are in the first week of November. Now, could this be a hit against the voter system, the electronic voting system? Maybe. Because we know what they are going to do. If the situation is not going in the direction they want, they need to blame someone. They always like to blame somebody else. And especially when it comes to something like this, or the financial collapse, or war. So they're already laying the groundwork to blame Putin for this. And we see right now that they have a bigger plan. And it looks like since everything is falling apart and they're racing against time, their bigger plan is maybe to collapse the system. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen this fall. I'm saying this could be their plan because we have a lot of indicators pointing to this. We have a lot of things going on at this time. And they are racing against the clock here because out in Syria, they're really not making any type of headway. The war has been going on for a very long time, and they still have to get into Iran. And we can see right now, they're going nowhere in Syria. They'll never get Assad out of power unless they send in a sniper hit team and they actually take him out. They're not going to be able to remove him through the political process. The people will vote him in. They see him as a war hero. They know this. Russia is involved. They have troops on the ground. They set up no-fly zones in the entire area. The planes would be shot down with their S-400, S-500 systems. They know this. They're dead in the water. They're losing control in each and every one of these Middle Eastern countries, which is a threat to the petrodollar. If the petrodollar collapses, the system is doomed. If they allow the people in these countries to take their countries back, the system is doomed. They know this. And when I say allow, it means they overrun the forces of the coalition forces, the puppet government, and actually they just lose control. We see it happening in Yemen. We see it happening in Libya. Everything they tried isn't working. Actually, the Iraqi people are fighting back. They want the U.S. government and their puppet government out of power. So they know they're racing against time, that what they have tried to do has not worked. They planned on going into each and every one of these countries, ending up with Iran, to be finished already in 2008. It is 2016. We're heading into 2017. The clock is ticking down. They can't let it just happen out of the blue. They need to do it on their own terms. The system is at its end game here. And they don't want to lose control. They want to keep control. So when we look at all this propaganda that's pouring out of the corporate media, we can start to put the pieces together. And we can start to see what's going on here. We can see that during this fall, they might bring the system down if it's not going the way they want. If the wars aren't going the way. If the candidate they want is not getting voted in. They might just decide at that point, let's do it. Let's do it. We have everything in place. We have the propaganda of North Korea hitting the SWIFT system. We have the propaganda going back in time that Russia hit the power infrastructure. We have China, who's been hacking our systems. Let's just do it and blame these countries to get the war started. We already have the laws in place that if we are cyber attacked, it's an act of war. And we can see as we move into this fall, we will need to look at the indicators to see what direction they're heading in. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.